I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Truth About Addiction. Ron here. Welcome to 2023. Georgina is our first lady guest for 2023 and special. She's always been special. No, Georgina is a beautiful person I've known for a long time, and she's an incredible story. And welcome to The Truth About Addiction, Georgina.
Thanks, Ron. Whenever I'm speaking publicly, if I don't start with my name's Georgina and I'm an addict, I don't feel like I've started.
Yeah.
So, I am a recovering addict. I've been clean for 26 years.
Wow.
And I got clean in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous.
Yeah, beautiful.
So all I know about recovery, I have learnt from attending 12-step programs. I didn't think that I was an addict. I had a lot of incredibly well-developed and highly functioning fronts that I used for a very long time. And I also had some pretty judgmental ideas about what an addict was and what an addict looked like and what they did. And of course, I ticked none of those boxes, so therefore I wasn't an addict. I worked all through my addiction. I had good jobs. I lived in nice places. To me, that equaled, it was that social acceptability stuff of I was socially acceptable, therefore whatever I happened to be doing really didn't matter because I could pass myself off as somebody who had their shit together, so to speak. But I didn't. My whole day, other than going to work, revolved around the getting and using and finding ways and means to get more drugs. That's a very time-consuming exercise, and trying to fit in anything else over on top of that was kind of, I worked so that I could use. I didn't work so that I could further my career or make some kind of mark within my community. I went to work so that I could make money to use drugs. Let's rewind a little bit. I was the kind of kid that when I found something that I liked to do and that made me feel good, I wanted to do it all the time, 24/7. So my first real obsession was with dance, which is quite healthy, except when you want to do it all the time, to the exclusion of all else. And that started when I was 3. I spent all my spare time in dance studios and doing ballet and doing tap and it just suited me down to the ground because I had control over my body. I was able to learn things very quickly and I was good at it. So it just fed my ego, and it fed my self-worth, and it fed my self-esteem, but it was something that was outside of me. And I grew up in a household that domestic violence was quite prevalent, and I was a witness to that. And there was also a lot of violence perpetrated against my older brothers that I was also forced to witness. So I had quite a lot of, there was a lot of trauma around most of the time. And there was also a lot of alcohol around. But if I look back on my childhood, I can still say that for the most part, it felt like it was a good childhood, But my father dropped dead when I was 9. He went to work and had a heart attack, and that was it. And that was my childhood, basically finished then. My mother became almost catatonic with grief. She couldn't do anything. She couldn't cook. She couldn't clean. She couldn't speak. So I kind of, at 9, I kind of took over the running of the house and became this little adult and became overly responsible and took 3 months off school and, went back to school and felt very, very different from everybody else there. Nobody I knew had lost their father. Nobody I knew even came from a broken home. So I felt very, very different. And I also felt like I had this kind of, this veil of childhood innocence had been removed. It was gone, and I had this reality, which was I didn't know how to cope with death. I did not know how to cope with my emotions. I was consumed with grief, and I was just told to stop crying and get on with it. And, that was it. It was 2 years of being in fear all the time, fear of what was going to happen to me and my mother, and where were we going to live, and what was my life going to look like, and was I going to get stuck with her? Most 10 or 11-year-olds shouldn't have to be thinking about, am I going to be stuck with my mother forever? Mm. You should be thinking about, what bike am I going to ride, or what TV show am I going to watch, or what sporting team am I going to play on? Not, fuck, I'm going to be stuck with my mother forever. Jesus Christ. My mum was a very pragmatic woman, and I think she knew that if she wanted to have any kind of life at all, she needed to get married again pretty quickly. So she did. And she married somebody who had a very good job, was university educated, was very, very different to my father, but he had the same name. Ew. Yeah. And he had children of his own, and he kind of, he swept her off her feet, and they were married within a year of meeting. It all seemed to me to be fairly fantastic. From pretty much the moment he met me, he started to groom me, and I didn't know that. But, I was given, at that stage, I had developed a passion for horses, so I got given a pair of hand-tooled Western riding boots from Colorado, and I was, given horse riding lessons, and I was given all these things that, as a single parent, my mother couldn't afford. And, taken out to nice restaurants and being treated like I was special. They got married, we moved in, we blended the families, we moved into one house, and then his sexual abuse of me began then at age 11. Wow. And it continued for about 8 years, and it was pretty much on a daily basis. Mm. And so I went from that despair at having lost my father, and then this elation at having this family that I so wanted again, in place, to, Jesus Christ, this guy is a fucking monster. Mm. And I can't escape. I've got no means of escape. I'm stuck here. So obviously I found a way to escape, and that was through drugs. Yep. I started using, I smoked my first joint when I was 12, and it was a revelation. It was like, wow, I can leave my body. I already knew how to leave my body, but I can leave my body, and it can be nice. It can be pleasant, and I took to it like a duck to water. I had no capacity for understanding when I'd had enough. If I drank to blackout. Yep. Everything was to excess. Everything was unmanageable, and there was, I couldn't stop at a couple. I wanted to obliterate myself somehow. I was finally able to get out of home. I had kind of stumbled into a relationship with somebody who was just embarking on a career in managing bands, in rock and roll. And he'd been a musician prior to that. And he and I got together and we started to manage bands, and we found ourselves a band, and that band became very successful and we earned a lot of money. This was like in 1980, 81. We lived that rock and roll lifestyle to the full. We worked 7 days a week. We worked in every pub and club along the eastern seaboard of Australia, and we partied really, really hard, and it was just acceptable. I just kept finding myself in the subcultures where taking drugs was totally acceptable. So it never felt to me like I had a problem.
Yeah.
I was always surrounded by people who were doing the same thing, and nobody ever got into the reasons why. Nobody could. You could care less as long as somebody wanted to do it. It was great. Yay, let's do it. And I did that for like 6 years, and I got to travel the world. I got to do some pretty amazing things. But underneath all that was, my disease was progressing. It was the next drug and the next drug and the next drug. And I never said no. I never said, oh, you know what, maybe not. I think I did once, and I don't actually know why I did it, but somebody offered me some crack cocaine once backstage at a gig. And I said to them, you know what, I don't think I'll have that because I could get addicted to that.
Maybe.
Like really?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, like you got enough going on, girlfriend. Like, that's just like the icing on the cake. And I always had that thing of, oh, I'm never going to do this and I'm never going to do that. And of course, not understanding that I had actually no say in what I was going to do or not do. By that stage, my disease had completely taken over with regards to the life choices that I made and what I did and how I did it and when I did it. I had no idea that I was actually powerless. I got into a relationship in my very late 20s when I was 29, and that relationship revolved around sex and drugs and violence. It also introduced me to heroin, and that was one of those things that I was never going to do. I'm never going to do that. And it was the first time that I experienced what it was like to be physically addicted to something. After the initial shock wore off, I found that I liked it too much to worry about all that. And, I had no concept of okay, all right, I'm going to need more and more and more. The other thing that has saved me is that I have an absolutely morbid fear of needles. I can't handle needles. And so I never injected my heroin. I smoked it all, which I used to cop a lot of stick for. I was always told I was being wasteful.
Wastage, the wastage. Yeah.
So, it probably saved my life. The thing that heroin did for me that I didn't really understand why, it made me very depressed. It really depressed me a lot. And after like 2 years of using it, I became quite morose, and all my abuse stuff started to come up, and it wanted to be dealt with, and I didn't really want to deal with it. It also became revealed to the rest of my family for the first time, which caused a great deal of havoc, and it caused a great rift in my family. And, just for me, it just became another reason to keep using, or not a reason, an excuse. It was an excuse to keep using. I had my first really big rock bottom when I was 33, and I decided, well, I didn't decide, it was kind of decided for me that I needed to leave Sydney and go somewhere and try and get clean. So I went to my brother's place in Byron Bay because he was already clean. And I had a very, very feeble attempt at recovery. I used to attend like one NA meeting a week, and I got a sponsor and I never called her. I never joined a group. I didn't do any service. I didn't do any step work. And I declared myself cured after 3 months. And I went back to Sydney and I had another habit within a couple of days and I had another job and it all just started off all over again. And that continued for another 3 years until again, the relationship that I was in became so violent, and I became very violent. And I didn't really understand how that had happened to me, how I had become this very violent, very volatile, very reactive woman. But, you know, I'd had it patterned to me as a child. So, of course, I was going to pull that out of my bag of tricks sooner or later.
Yeah.
You know, my boyfriend and I had a particularly bad fight and he had knocked some of my teeth out and I was in a pretty bad way. And my brother came to visit me, paid me, one of my other brother came to visit me and paid me a surprise visit. And he was so shocked at my appearance and how I was. And he said to me, you know, you have to stop this. He said, I either your boyfriend is going to kill you or you're going to kill him. And he said, and my money's on you. He said, I know what you're like. And he said, you need to get out of here. You need to stop. And I had, you know, I was in my house on my own. I just scored. I was off my head. I was listening to the NRL grand final. And I just had that moment where I went, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I really can't. I don't want to do it anymore. I was working as a receptionist in a massage parlor and I'd gotten the sack.
Bad. From an owner, I know that's bad.
I didn't know anyone that had ever gotten the sack from a parlor. I was like, what? I said, why are you sacking me? Because you're giving drugs to the girls. And I'm like, what else do you do when it's a slow night? Come on, you know, like hello. Anyway, so, you know, my career trajectory was on a very downward slope. And so I took myself off to a friend's house. I didn't even know you could go to a detox. I didn't know anyone that had gotten clean other than my brother. I didn't know that you could just present yourself to a detox and they could take you in. So I detoxed myself, which was absolutely hideous and probably the best thing that could have happened to me because I never, ever want to do that again.
Yeah.
That was the most disgusting 10 days spent on my friend's floor. And as soon as I felt even the slightest bit okay, I just threw all my stuff into my car and I drove straight back up to Byron Bay. All I knew was that I didn't want to use anymore. I didn't have a plan. For the first time in my life, I didn't have this grand plan that involved, you know, money and men and this and that and the other. I just went, all I know is that I just don't want to use anymore. I was 35. I think I weighed about 50 kilos. I thought I looked shit hot. My life had come to this huge halt. And my brother at that stage had 10 years clean and he sat me down and he said, look, you really should go to rehab. You know, you really should. It's the best place for you. You need long-term rehab. And I agreed with him.
Yeah.
So I rang a facility on the North Coast and I thought they would take me in immediately. You know, I thought all I had to do was ring up and say, I want to come in, and they'd be like, yeah, sure, see you tomorrow. And I got this, well, you need to ring up every week and you need to do this and you need to do that. And I just was like, what? I have to actually take some responsibility. Oh, I'm not, I don't know whether I'm up for that, but I did it anyway. And he also said to me, okay, you can stay with me, but you need to go to a meeting every day. You need to get a sponsor. You need to get a service position and you need to start working the steps. And he said, and you need to stay away from men.
Mm.
And I agreed to everything except the last one. It's like, I didn't, what?
Yeah.
What did you say? I had no idea how codependent I was. I had no idea that I was absolutely incapable of being alone at that stage of my life. I did not know. I didn't have that knowledge. You know, all I knew was that I needed to have a man around to feel okay. So I did everything that he suggested, and I started going to meetings every day, and I got the service position and I got the sponsor, and I also got the boyfriend who was in the rooms, who was 18 months clean. And so I thought he was just this, you know, guru.
He was.
He was in his own mind. He was 10 years older than me. We got together on the New Year's Eve. We got engaged the following April. We got pregnant in the June. We got married in the October, and we had our daughter the following February.
Mm.
So I like my distractions big and bold and to fill up the whole plate. But what I did in amongst all that stuff was that I never stopped doing what I had been suggested at the very beginning. I kept going to meetings. I kept doing service. I kept doing my step work. And I, you know, my recovery still came first because it had to. You know, I was 37 years old by the time I had my daughter, and I didn't know how to live. You know, I thought I did, but I actually didn't. So I really needed that structure of you know, those things in my life every day. I just thought everything was going to be fine. You know, I had no concept of what the phrase life on life's terms really meant then. You know, I just thought it meant, oh, I'm not using anymore, and, you know, what goes along with that. And my mother became quite ill when I was about 2 years clean. She got Alzheimer's. So I became her primary carer along with one of my brothers. And so I spent 5 years caring for her and, you know, being married and raising a child and working and, you know, and that was one of the first times that I realized that I needed to go and get help outside the rooms with what was going on in my life. And that's one of the things that recovery's taught me, that there is help on offer for me wherever I want it, but I've got to want it. And then I've got to want to do what they tell me to do, or what they ask me to do, or what they suggest for me to do.
Mm.
At the end, she passed away at the end of 2005. And my husband and I decided to get out of Byron. We had the opportunity to move to Queensland and for me to buy our first home. We did that. We had what we thought was like this, you know, perfect life. Unfortunately, my husband had secondary addictions that he had done nothing to address. The consequences of those unaddressed addictions played out in our lives in such a way that it became very public. It was in newspapers. He was arrested. He was charged. He lost his job as a result of it. And our marriage just fell apart. And it was because I You know, he was somebody that I had been with for 11 years, and I really thought that I could trust him. And unfortunately, I couldn't trust him. He wasn't who I thought he was.
Mm.
And so that was really difficult. That was a very difficult 2 years of extricating myself out of that relationship and losing the house, you know, all that stuff. You know, having to reinvent myself again as a single mother and, you know, provide for my daughter. He left and went to Thailand. He needed to be a long way away from me. And I can understand why. And that had a very negative effect on our daughter. He spent 2 years living overseas and coming back every 3 months for, you know, sometimes only 24 hours to visit. He came home. Just before he came home, I decided that we needed to move back to Byron Bay. I'd had enough of Queensland. Queensland had turned out to be a place where my life had taken a turn for the worse.
Yep.
And I said, we need to go home. So we moved back to Byron at the end of 2012. And he came home around about March of 2013. And he became ill pretty quickly after that. And it turns out that he had an extremely rare form of cancer. From when he was diagnosed, 12 weeks later, he was dead. And I spent those 12 weeks with him. I made a commitment to him that I would not abandon him, that I would be with him. Recovery's taught me that. Recovery's taught me to front up, and that love is more important than anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wanted to be able to show our daughter that things can be left where they were, and we can be in the present, and we can make the most of what we've got. She and I were with him when he died. He knew that he was surrounded by love.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to have no regrets and nothing left unsaid, and to be able to exercise my ability to be able to love and care for somebody no matter what. The night he died at like 12:30 in the morning, and that night I'm at a meeting.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what else to do, so I go to a meeting.
Yeah.
You know, and I sit there and I listen, and I'm pretty sure everybody else felt extremely uncomfortable because they didn't know what to do with me, and it was like, listen, it doesn't matter. You know, I need to be here. You know, that's been my thing, my whole recovery is, if I don't know what to do, go to a meeting. If I don't feel like going to a meeting, go to a meeting. If I feel like going to a meeting, go to a meeting. Just go. Now, in 26 years, I don't think I've ever walked out of a meeting feeling worse than when I walked in, ever. And what a gift that is. I got to 17 years clean, and I knew that I had some more work to do. All my stuff around relationships and around men had pretty much brought me to my knees. It had brought me to a point where I didn't want to live. I thought that suicide was an actually really good idea, because the amount of emotional pain that I was in was just intolerable. And a mutual friend of ours, young Todd, said to me, you need to go to SLA.
Toddy.
And I said, yeah, no, you know, I'm good. He said, no, you really, really need to go. So at 17 years clean, I presented myself to my first SLA meeting. Being a newcomer at 17 years clean was very sobering. Very sobering. Oh, my God. I smashed out those 12 steps in that program in 9 months. I'm so very glad that I did it. I knew that it was going to work. I had every faith in a 12-step based program. It was just whether I was ready to confront my behaviour and change it, you know. I was amazed, you know. Again, I was surrounded by a group of people who were really committed to getting well.
Yeah.
and I still kept my NA meetings up and my service up and what have you. My daughter left home when she was 17 to go to university. That was huge. I didn't know what to do with myself. I got really depressed. That role that I had been so committed to for 17 years was changing, and I really wasn't ready for it. So I went a little bit crazy, but I knew that I needed to, again, go outside the rooms, get some therapy, deal with some stuff. I was very fortunate that I went and saw a therapist who had a lot of time up in the fellowship. And so I could use my recovery language, and he understood me. In 2018, I met a man. Things got very hot and heavy really, really quickly, and we became engaged. I moved into his house. He bought me a nice big diamond ring. He promised me a lot of things. None of them came to fruition. And then 3 years later, he ended the relationship. I found myself at age 60 back in a share house alone, going, okay, I'm going to probably close the book on this shit now. I'm done. Probably about a month after that happened, my best friend and the woman who had been my first sponsor became gravely ill. So I spent 6 weeks with her while she passed away. She's my daughter's godmother. As I said, she's the longest relationship I've had in recovery.
Mm.
And she was my friend for like 25 years. And to be given the opportunity to be with her in those 6 weeks, I miss her so much. I hate knowing that she's not there anymore. I believe that grief is cumulative, and I've had a lot of grief in my life, and now she's sitting at the top of that bucket, and I'm very, very careful not to move that bucket right now. And again, understanding that it was recovery that brought us together. She and I knew each other from King's Cross when I was 19 years old. Mm. She used to serve me drinks at the Mansell room. Mm. And all those years later, I run into her at an NA meeting. Recovery gave me the opportunity to experience friendship and platonic love on a level that I don't think I would ever been given that opportunity had I not gotten clean.
Yeah.
To completely trust and to love somebody so deeply without question. That term unconditional love kind of rubs me the wrong way most of the time, but it was unconditional.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what I did, she loved me, and it didn't matter what she did, I loved her.
Yep.
So I'm in fact very grateful, even though she's gone. I'm so incredibly grateful that I got that. As I was, licking my wounds after that happened and just going, okay, I just need a fucking break. Yeah. My new sponsor's husband became ill. And I said to her, if you need some help, I'm here, because you're going to get to the stage pretty quickly where this is going to become overwhelming. And I've been working for the last 10 years as a disability support worker. So I have quite a lot of experience in caring for people,
yep.
But in a professional way. And she finally rang me and said help. And so I spent 5 months going to their house twice a week so that she could have some respite, and sitting with this man while he went on his cancer journey, and watching these two people with, quite a lot of clean time up navigate that in regards to their recovery, and watch someone wrestle with acceptance and wrestle with gratitude and wrestle with fear and wrestle with the unknown and keep on bringing it back to it's just for today, it's just for today.
Yeah.
And the power of prayer and the power of connection with other human beings. I was with him the night that he died. You know, I didn't know him very well when I first started to work with him. Our families actually knew each other. We just got on straight away. For me, again, it's that another gift of recovery to be present for somebody who, when they're so frightened, and if you pick their hand up and hold it and look them in the eye and say, I can't tell you that it's going to be all right. All I can tell you is that I'm not going to leave.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. He grabbed my hand one day and he said to me, please promise me that you won't leave until I'm gone.
Yeah.
And I said, of course. You know, as you know, the older you get, the more people that drop off the perch.
Yep.
We're not going to many weddings.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm so thankful that my recovery path has put these people in my way.
Yep. You
know, I learn more about myself. I learn more about them. I get to experience things that are very, very real, and have that capacity to get out of my own way and get out of my own head, that have that understanding that it doesn't matter what's going on as long as I'm not using. It's a good day.
Yeah.
It's a good day.
Yeah.
I've just come back from 2 weeks in London. One of my good friends who I've been friends with in recovery for many, many years bought me a ticket to London.
Yeah.
Who does that shit?
Yeah.
You know, and we had a ball. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I would have probably died a long time ago if I had kept using. There was a lot of yets for me, and there still are. So I have to be even more vigilant. You know, anybody who thinks, oh yeah, you got a lot of time up, it's all easy. No, it's not. It's just, you know, yeah, I think I have to be more vigilant now than ever.
It's a daily basis.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's my story.
No, it was beautiful. You know, I say all the time, you know, I'm one shot away from being a junkie. There's no big shots.
Yeah, no.
I'm one shot away from being a junkie, you know?
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. You know, it was actually really nice for me. I've known you a long time. I've known you since you came in the rooms, you know, basically, you know, and there's always been this connection with us and empathy, if you want to call it, or whatever you call it. I don't even know what it is. I call it connection. I don't know what I am, you know. I don't know what I've got a God of my not understanding. I just know it loves me, understands me, forgives me, and puts people with love, understanding, and forgiveness in my life.
Yeah.
They're the people I'm attracted to. I'm attracted to the people that don't have bad things to say about other people.
Yeah.
I'm attracted to the people who give unconditional love, even when we don't like the person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm attracted to the people that don't judge.
Mm.
Now, I remember you and your ex many years ago when I got into trouble saying, you're always welcome at our house, Ronnie.
Yeah.
When everybody else was talking about me and judging me, you know, I always laugh, you know. And you know me pretty well, you know, I'm a pretty upfront sort of person. I remember saying one day at a convention after sharing, you know, for all you people out there that judge me, pray for me so I can be perfect like you one day. And the whole fucking room went dead quiet.
Of course.
The whole room went dead quiet.
We're busted. Yeah, we've been busted. Yeah.
He must be talking, because they're all self-centered. He must be talking about me. He must know that I've been talking about him.
Yeah.
In the 42 years that I've been in the program, 42 years I've been coming to these rooms now.
Wow.
And 37 years clean. I've had 2 people make amends to me. 2 people come up and said, I'm sorry for talking about you behind your back.
Wow.
42 years. So a lot of people mustn't work the 10th step.
Well, I think everyone has different versions of the word prompt. Some people's promptly is is never going to happen.
Yeah. My sponsor laughs about you. Always goes, fuck, he said, like, you are one of the most controversial figures there's ever been in our program. He said, and yet everyone loves you.
Yeah.
He said, because you carry a message of recovery. And I've always been so protective of my recovery and of everyone else's.
Hey, I have to tell you, I don't know whether I've ever told you this. When I was in that feeble first attempt at recovery, my brother took me to a meeting in Bangalore, and it was in the old Bangalore showgrounds because it was a temporary meeting hall. And he said, oh, it's a speaker meeting. And I walked in, and here is this guy, and he's covered in tattoos, and he's got gold chains around his neck, and he looks like he's going to kill me. And I just looked at him and went, we have nothing in common. No, anything that you say, no. And you were that guy, and you started to speak, and you started to tell my story, and I was just flabbergasted. I was like, oh my God, I've just judged this man's outsides.
Yeah.
And now I've shut up long enough to hear him speak, and he's saying what I think and what I've thought, and he's done what I've done, and he's telling me what I need to do to stop doing those things. And it was such a bucket of cold water. And I've only ever done that one other time with Tim B, who lives in Byron.
Yep.
And I saw him at my very first convention, and they asked him to share, and he walked up the aisle, and he's this little guy, he's a bit overweight, and he got up on stage, and he starts telling my story, and I'm like, oh my God, I really need to stop this judgmental shit about what somebody looks like.
Yeah.
I have to, my closed-mindedness was so huge. And that's the thing that I think, if you continue to be closed-minded, you're going to miss the message every single time.
Yeah, that's what they say. Look for the similarities, not the differences.
Yeah.
And I've always said you can't graft a new idea on a closed mind.
No.
And the disease's greatest tool is our denial. That's why I've got the plate denial on my car.
Yeah.
Every time I walk out, I look at it and I think, yeah, that's not me today.
No.
Yeah, it's not me today,
No.
I am so, and you're the same as me. I'm so grateful not to have to wake up this morning and put a chemical in my body to survive in a world that I was ill-equipped to survive in.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the tools like you. I never had the tools, same as you. We came from completely different worlds, but we had exactly the same feeling.
Yeah.
I don't belong.
Nope.
I don't fit.
Nope.
And nobody understands.
Yeah.
And nobody understood, because until I found our program and people like us, the therapeutic value of one egg helping another, I was never going to get clean.
No.
At 26 years clean, I went and done PTSD with a guy, I can say his name now because he's passed away, Paddy Shannon. Because he was a recovering addict in the fellowship. I 12-stepped Pat.
Wow.
30-something years ago. I 12-stepped him. And here I am, I get out of prison, 26 years clean, and the prior board's going to teach me a lesson. They said, we're going to send you to our head psychiatrist. You're not going to be able to get past him. He's going to slap you into shape, you horrible human being. And the lady writes down the name on a piece of paper, Patrick Shannon, and his phone number. And I ring him up and I say, Paddy, Ronnie Isherwood. Hello, mate. How are you? I said, stop. Give me your address. I've got to come and see you. This is on a business level. The prior board's just sent me to you.
Oh.
I went and seen him. I'd done his 4th step. And then but he was a master in PTSD.
Yeah.
And because, my lifestyle, I'm full of post-traumatic stress syndrome. I grew up in prisons and violence. And he said to me, and he was really insecure, Paddy, because I was his first sponsor sort of thing. He said, can we try this? And I said, mate, I'll do anything you want me to do
Yeah.
if it's going to help us.
Yeah.
And God love him. He passed away 2 years into that PTSD. I'd finished it. He
Yeah.
died of liver cancer because of his hep C, and he got a liver transplant. His liver got reinfected and he passed away. But my higher power, who I don't understand, put that person back in my life at the perfect time.
Yeah.
I met my wife, who I just got out of jail. My other wife had gone back to America. Had left me. I thought I'm 57 years of age. I'm never going to find a woman again. I'm never going to, blah, blah, blah. 57 years of age, I met the new wife of my dreams. She's the perfect wife for me today. We've been together 10 years, and we have 2 children. Like, everything that I believe I have today is because we have a program.
Yeah.
But we have to work hard.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody misses that point.
Yeah.
It's not by osmosis.
No.
It's getting out of bed when you don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
It's getting out of bed when you can't get out of bed.
Yeah.
It's getting on this program and sharing your guts when you don't really want to. Your head told you this morning, oh, fuck this. You know what I mean? It's normal for us, but we still front up, suit up, and address what we have to address.
Absolutely.
And the thing that I've done my whole recovery, except for when I was in prison, of course, even when I was in prison, went to a meeting every day just about. And when I call a meeting what we're doing right now, I've always faced up. I've always fronted up. I've always put my hand out. If someone says, even if I don't like them, I need help, I'll help them. It's got nothing to do with liking.
No.
I didn't like me.
No.
So I would never have got clean if I only helped people I liked.
Yes. Yeah.
I never liked me. I never liked me for many, many years before I actually got to that point where I thought, okay, I'm starting to like you. I remember saying that to somebody once. I actually looked in the mirror this morning and I wasn't repulsed. Georgina, I love you. I'm really, really grateful you came on The Truth About Addiction.
Thank you for
I'm sure
having
that
me.
you're going to help some people, darling. I really know you are.
I hope so.
Our motivation for this program is to help people.
Yeah.
People say to me, how many followers you got? I don't know. I don't care.
No.
If we've got one, we've got a follower.
Exactly.
I don't do this for any other reason but to carry a message of hope to the person out there who's suffering. And suffering doesn't mean they're still using.
No.
I suffer still today, 37 years clean. I still have days of suffering. And usually it's self-inflicted.
Always.
Give my love to your beautiful daughter.
I will. Thank you.
And I hope to catch up with you soon.
Yes.
And you be
Clearly.
safe.
Yeah. Okay, darling.
Well
Thanks.
done. Love you.
I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.